Are you a paralegal who has an online education? You got that paralegal certification at that online college and you just can't find a job? Or are you the person who is looking to get that education online and get that paralegal certificate and you're worried that you might not find a job? Then I definitely want you guys to stay tuned to this video because we're going to talk about how those online for-profit certification paralegal programs simply do not prepare you for your first-time job. They're not preparing our paralegals of the future. They weren't before the pandemic, and they definitely aren't since the pandemic. But if you're a paralegal who got your certification during the pandemic, you might be wondering, where are the jobs? Stay tuned, and we're going to talk about that today. Let's face it, the pandemic had an enormous impact on the legal industry. Our courts were shut down. Our depositions went digital. It was a whole new landscape in the legal industry. But during the process of all of this, what happened to the paralegal education? Was the pandemic helping to evolve the education and better prepare our paralegals for that first-time job? Unfortunately, it isn't. And over the last year, I have interviewed hundreds of paralegals for jobs at law firms. I have looked at thousands of posts online, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, with paralegals saying that they can't find any jobs, that they've been out there searching and sending their resume out to the masses, but they just can't land that job. And it must be incredibly frustrating to spend all that money and all that time to go to school and not be able to land that job. And the reason why is because those online for-profit paralegal certifications aren't enough. They simply aren't preparing you for that job. And here's the reason why. One of the biggest problems that online for-profit colleges have is they are simply too broad. There is no way for them to really narrow the scope of their education to account for every single state and their unique way of practicing law. All states aren't equal. The civil processes and the procedures for each and every state are not equal. Every venue, every jurisdiction has their own way of doing it. And even breaking it down further, the judges within those jurisdictions and those venues have their own unique way of doing things. Employers are looking for that experience, and they're not able to find that experience because you went to a college that simply didn't teach that experience to you. They couldn't teach you local civil rules and procedure. So, what do we do when we went to an online for-profit college that didn't prepare us for the local jobs that we're looking for? It's simply up to you to go beyond the scope of that online paralegal certification program. Do not rely on that certification program alone to get you the job. Now, don't get me wrong, it's great that you went through that certification program, but you have to look beyond the scope of that because there are so many things technology-wise that you're simply not going to learn in that online certification paralegal program. In fact, there's a lot of things that you actually learn in that program that you don't use at all. There's lots of education that I've taken over the years that I simply don't use. And so over the scope of my career, I've learned to really hone in on what it is that I need to be focusing on to grow in my career. So what are those things? Microsoft Word is one of them. You have to be an expert in Microsoft Word. Now, if that's Microsoft 365 or not, we'll talk about that in another video. You really must be an expert formatter in Microsoft Word. What happens when you don't know how to go into the paragraph settings and how to change it so you don't have those formatting gremlins anymore? That's something that you're not going to learn in that online certification for-profit program. You're just not. Another one is Adobe Acrobat Pro. You really must be an expert in that. Maybe before the pandemic, I didn't require it so much, but since the pandemic, my goodness, I use it every day. It is absolutely imperative that I be an expert in Adobe Acrobat Pro because there's so much that I do in it. I do all of my Bates labeling. I do all of my exhibit marking. I'm constantly converting things from Word to PDF, from PDF to Word. There's just so much that you have to know in Adobe Acrobat Pro to really thrive as a paralegal on the job. Regardless if you're there in the office or you're online and you're working in that digital space, Adobe Acrobat Pro and Microsoft Words are two things that you need to be an expert in that you're likely not going to learn during that online certification process. It is up to you to go beyond the scope of that certification and learn more about the technology that is going to help you thrive in the legal industry. Now, going beyond the scope of the technology, there's also those local rules and procedures. And quite frankly, if you don't know them because you haven't had any experience working with another law firm, then the law firm who wants to hire you, the law firm who is interviewing knows that they are going to have to spend time, which is money, to train you. So how about you make it a little bit easier for them and you show them during that interviewing process that you've gone beyond the scope of that certification and you have done your homework. You are preparing for a local job and thus you need to be looking at local procedures. I want you to go online. And I want you to go to the websites for all of the courts that you think that you're going to be practicing in, all of the venues that you are going to be in. I want you to take a look at the judges, take a look at the standing orders, take a look at their publications, take a look at their forms, take a look at their schedule, take a look at who their clerk is, take a look at whether or not they accept anything by email. I want you to do your homework about those local procedures and those local courthouses and the people that are in those courthouses. Now, if you do your homework and you are able to show in that interviewing process that you've done that and that you know local procedures, you understand that when you file a motion, you have to file a notice, or when you answer interrogatories, you have to verify them in some way. You know that when you're going into a pretrial conference, you have to have this, that, and the other. That is homework that you need to do to show during the interviewing process that you know what you're talking about. That even though you haven't worked for another law firm in the past, you've got this. You know what you're doing. And it's going to take them less time to train you. I know that finding a job during the pandemic is incredibly hard. I know for a lot of you who went through a certification program, you didn't get an internship. And that's incredibly hard because a lot of us relied on that internship in order to gain that on-the-job experience to transition us into that legal industry from college to job. I interviewed a paralegal recently who had no on-the-job experience whatsoever. She had went to one of those online for-profit colleges and received her paralegal certification, and then a pandemic hit. She didn't even get to go into that internship. So between the pandemic hitting and her trying to find a job, what happened? Nothing. Without having a background in any legal experience whatsoever, I was once in her position, and I really wanted to give her the opportunity to not only interview for this position, but to perhaps be hired on. But the interview didn't go so well. So here are a few questions that I asked during the interview. Do you know how to e-file with the court? And her answer was, I've never e-filed before. But she didn't go beyond that and say, while I've never e-filed before, I know that the e-filing platform is da-da. And I've gone ahead and went to the online training that they offer, so I know how to e-file a document. I've just never actually had the opportunity to do so. Instead, she just simply stops at, no, I've never e-filed before. and she was ready for the next question. She shouldn't have just stopped at answering the question, no, I've never e-filed. It should have been, no, I've never e-filed, but go beyond the scope of what you haven't done and show how you can do it, and here's how. The next question I asked was, how many days do you have to answer interrogatories? And for different states, that's a different answer because some states allow for a mail rule, some states don't. But she didn't know at all. Her response was, I don't know. Had she done her homework about the job that she was applying for, she would have known that that firm was particularly in civil litigation, and interrogatories and knowing when to answer them is something that is a must. But again, she stopped at, I don't know. It wasn't, I don't know, but, and we go beyond the scope of that. Remember, this is your opportunity to sell yourself. So if you're just stopping at, no, I don't know that, then you're not really doing a wonderful job selling yourself. My next question should have been a no-brainer, and that was, when you are served interrogatories and requests for production from opposing counsel, what would be your next step? Now, she could have given me a whole slew of answers, and she really, I don't know. She didn't give me an answer. She said, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that. Now, she could have said, scan them if they were served to me in paper form, or make a copy of them and put a copy on the partner's desk, or diary the answer date, which is what I would have done. Format them for answering. She could have given me a slew of answers to that question that I had, but it was, I don't know. It wasn't, I don't know, but it was just, I don't know. So just after a few questions, she figured out that she was so ill prepared for that first time job. She thought that she really was. She'd gotten that certification. She was ready to go, but she really wasn't, because just that certification doesn't prepare you for that first time job. Go beyond the scope of that. Get online, get on YouTube, get on Skillshare, get on Udemy, get on Thinkific. Go and explore. Find a local mentor, find a local coach, and get with that person to learn those local procedures, to learn the ins and outs of the jobs locally that you're going to be applying for. The next question is probably, okay, Misty, I've done the online certification thing, or I'm getting ready to do the online certification thing, and I want to be a freelancer. I want to be a freelance paralegal and start my own business as soon as I get out of college. And that is another video for another time. So stay tuned, definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and turn that bell notification on to receive a notification of each time I post a video on here, because that will be a question that we cover in an upcoming video. I get that a lot, and I definitely want to cover that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Again, subscribe if you haven't already, because I would love to have you as part of this community. We are changing the face of the legal industry. And as paralegals, it's really up to us to thrive in this industry. Don't expect the certification to get you there. Go beyond the scope of that certification. Do your homework, get out there, and get the job that you went to school for. All right, good luck to you and all that you do, because this crazy legal industry needs an amazing paralegal just like you. Thank you for watching today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have an amazing weekend ahead of you, and I will see you guys back here on the next one. Mwah! Bye for now.